So our agenda today, we're going to hear from Dr. Brian Bordini. Brian, thank you for joining us. We'll get insight into not only the short-term benefits of feeding children on weekends, but also the long-term and chronic health conditions that result from too much of the wrong food and not enough of the right food. Our second presenter today is Principal Sunny Morland. Sunny is the principal at Diamond Lake School in Mundelein, and Sunny will share the impact of blessings on an individual child, their family, their classroom, the teacher, and really the entire school community. And I just want to note for everybody who's on the call, of all the critical nutritional support that Blessings provides for children here in Chicago and across the country, the most critical support they get is from you. Whether you're a teacher, program volunteer, backpacker, board member, donor, volunteer, you truly are the heart and hands of Blessings. And none of what we're going to talk about and we could achieve today could be done without you. So on behalf of the children of Blessings all over the country and here in Chicago, Louisville, and Waukesha, we say thank you. And we're going to begin with Dr. Brian Bordini. Just very quickly, I mentioned this a minute ago, but welcome, Dr. Bordini. Then we'll hear from Sunny, and then we'll end again with questions and conclusions. So Brian is a pediatric endocrinologist specialized in the care of children with diabetes and other hormone disorders. He completed medical school at the Medical College of Wisconsin. He completed his pediatric residency and pediatric endocrine fellowship training at the University of Chicago. After he completed his training, he remained at the University of Chicago for a few years, continuing his research into the role of obesity in pubertal hormone secretion. It's a mouthful. Then he transitioned to clinical care. He worked in a private practice in the west suburbs of Chicago for 6 years. Then he joined the pediatric endocrine department at NorthShore, now Endeavor Health Hospital, where he has practiced for the last 8 years. His practice focuses on children with diabetes, growth and pubertal disorders, thyroid problems, and rare hormonal conditions. Welcome, Brian, and take it away.
Thank you. Thank you both to Dan and Elizabeth for inviting me to participate in today's talk. Poor nutrition obviously affects the entire body. Previous Blessings talks have highlighted the impacts on emotional neuropsychiatric development. They were very good talks. I certainly encourage you to access them if you can. As an endocrinologist, I chose to focus on my area and in particular 2 areas affected by nutrition, growth and metabolism. With growth, we're going to look at linear growth being severely limited in the setting of caloric insufficiency. In terms of metabolism, there's this phenomenon of obesity, even in situations of food insecurity, and ultimately the consequences of what we call metabolic syndrome. So next slide, please. To give you a general timeline about pediatric growth, technically the most active period of growth is fetal development prior to birth, but then that's followed closely thereafter for the first 1 to 2 years of life. First year is the most active period of growth. Greatest growth rate in year 2 is also up there. And that's such that children are essentially reaching half of their final adult height between the ages of 24 to 30 months. So they've got the other half to cover over the rest of childhood. Between ages 4 and puberty, they will grow on average about 2 inches per year, and that's going to contribute another 30% to their final height. And then they cover the remaining 20% of their final height accrual during puberty. All right, next slide, please. So to simplify things, hormones are chemical messengers. They are substances created by glands in the body, and they're meant to convey messages throughout the body. They travel in the bloodstream to do that. They come in different flavors. We're talking about growth hormone in particular, and I couldn't resist. I had to put the technical definitions on there. Feel free to read them, but I will break it down into simpler language. Growth hormone tells the bones to get bigger. Its main breakdown product, insulin-like growth factor 1, IGF-1, is the main signal of that, but growth hormone is telling the bones to get bigger, and it's doing that throughout life. Growth hormone is not the final product. You don't deposit molecules of growth hormone in your bones. Growth hormone takes the food that you eat and it makes the bones bigger with those ingredients. Growth hormone directs that process, but it needs something to work with. And so the kind of that last sentence, minimum intake of 20 calories per every kilogram of body weight per day for energy, and 0.6 grams per kilogram of weight for protein are necessary in order to kind of have baseline normal growth. Okay, next slide. So this brings up an important point. There is what I call a caloric distribution hierarchy in terms of the food that you eat. It's always going to go to energy first. Whatever food you eat is going to go to your vital organs, your brain, your heart, your lungs. You don't live 2 seconds without them. So they get first dibs in terms of the food that you eat. And then after that, all of the other organ systems have their demands met. Your liver, kidneys, intestinal system, nervous system, and immune system. Skeletal muscle doesn't work for free. Whatever movement you're generating throughout the day, that comes from somewhere. If there are any calories left over after all of that, that is what growth hormone gets to use to make you bigger. So if calories are limited, the first thing on the chopping block is going to be height growth. All right, next slide, please. So this is a big slide, lots of numbers. Don't worry, there's no quiz on it. What I'd like to draw your eyes to are the last three groups. And so if you see there, we've got ages 4 to 8, ages 9 to 13, ages 14 to 19 years of age. That encompasses the early grade school, pre-pubertal years, the middle school, early pubertal years, and the high school, late pubertal years. And these, age brackets in particular are where blessings can have its impact, making a difference in children's nutrition. You don't have to remember the specific numbers, but follow the trends. As the years go by, the numbers go up. They need more calories to grow. They need more protein to grow. And these numbers, by the way, are assuming an average degree of physical activity. If you throw elite athletics into there, the numbers obviously go up. All right, next slide, please. All right, so they say a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it will probably take me 1,000 words to describe this picture, but we'll go over it nonetheless. This is a growth chart. You've probably seen this at your children's pediatrics appointments. The top part of the chart is height, and the bottom part is weight. And this is not necessarily an undernutrition chronic example, but it's an example of how weight issues can impact height. So the pre-drawn lines are the different channels. Not everybody's going to be at the 97th percentile. It's where you are genetically with your family, but the point is you should be following your genetic line throughout childhood. And so if we look at the top line first, that's following this child's growth. You can see that for several years, kind of following a line. And then all of a sudden, the growth slows down and the lines start to cross. But if you look lower down, you can see that that corresponds with a period of essentially no weight gain at all. Weight had been going up proportionately for several years. And then all of a sudden, there's this insult where this child isn't gaining any weight at all. And again, that's where the body is going to prioritize keeping the machine running, vital organs, et cetera. There's nothing left to grow. And in this example, there was an intervention that then allowed weight to resume, and then you can see the height growth go back up. And so there's just a definite correlation with having proper nutrition and being able to maintain your growth. Okay, next slide, please. So the consequences of diminished growth, as adults, we're mature. We want to say we're well adjusted. We would never judge a book by its cover, and we wouldn't make assumptions about someone's character based on their height. Would that everybody in the world would be like that? We know it's Lord of the Flies out there for the children, and these kids who are undernourished, their linear growth slows down, their friends are passing them up. It leads to social withdrawal, impaired confidence. They maybe stop playing sports that they previously enjoyed because they're just that much smaller than their peers. Unfortunately, there's even evidence of lower earning potential in their adult years if they are severely behind in height. So there are consequences of not getting proper nutrition to sustain your normal growth pattern. Okay, next slide, please. I'm going to shift to metabolism, kind of the opposite end of the spectrum, where I think blessings definitely has an impact on both sides of the spectrum. There are just some children that don't have access to enough calories at all. And then there are other kids who have access to calories. Families find a way, but they're not the healthiest calories. And so in families that maybe have various socioeconomic challenges, there's limited access, both geographically and financially, to fresh produce. Potentially, there's limited time to prepare full meals at home, well-balanced meals, and that's going to lead to frequent fast food or packaged food that has a longer shelf life. Those items are going to be high in fat, salt, sugar, ultra-processed starches, often going hand in hand with sugar-containing beverages. And if children are introduced to that diet profile at a young age, it influences their taste preferences for the rest of their life. Okay, next slide, please. And so these are numbers, kind of showing the current incidence of overweight and obesity in the population. So the first is what is considered overweight, where BMI, and there are issues, body mass index, there are arguments to be made about that. We're not going to go into that here, but for purposes, BMI between the 85th percentile and 95th percentile, so generous weight. And you can see that in, these school-age children from young preschool all the way through high school, we're into double-digit percent in terms of how many children are falling into that category. If we go to the next level, what is currently defined as class 1 obesity, that's where the BMI is above the 95th percentile and upwards of 125% above the 95th percentile. You can still see that we're in the double-digit percent in terms of various age brackets struggling with that. And then next slide, please. The final category is severe obesity, where BMI is greater than 120% of the 95th percentile. The numbers are a little bit lower, but they're not insignificant. This is certainly a national and international problem. Okay, next slide. So the consequence of having that type of diet, very high in processed sugar, fat, etc., is ultimately going to lead to metabolic syndrome. The core abnormality in metabolic syndrome is what you call insulin resistance. You eat food and you're going to get energy from food. And our body in particular uses carbohydrate for energy, starch, sugar. It all gets broken down into simple sugar molecules. The only way that the sugar molecules get into the tissues of the body to provide that energy is for insulin to unlock the door for it. Insulin's essential to get the food where it needs to go. And as you continue to gain weight from unhealthy food choices, your body becomes resistant to its own insulin. The normal amount of insulin is not enough to open the door anymore. And so the body starts having to produce higher and higher levels of insulin. That is a short-term gain, long-term loss for the body. The short-term gain is for a while. High insulin levels will open up the door. The sugar gets where it has to go, and it gets out of the bloodstream. And because of that, the blood sugar is not elevated, meaning you don't have diabetes in those early stages. The long-term loss is high insulin levels trap the body in a permanent state of hibernation. The body is always getting the signal that it needs to store food for the winter. So it stimulates the appetite. It makes you hungry for more calories than you need, often with a preference for these unhealthy options. And then the more food that you eat, the more weight that you gain. The more weight you gain, the more resistance, and your body becomes a never-ending cycle. Eventually, it'll get to the point where you can't make enough insulin anymore to control the blood sugar, and then you have pre-diabetes and ultimately diabetes. Downstream from that, there's a much higher incidence of developing cholesterol problems and high blood pressure. That trifecta of impaired sugar, either pre-diabetic or diabetic, along with cholesterol problems and high blood pressure, is what dramatically increases the risk of cardiovascular problems, heart attack, stroke. Ultimately, it's going to lead to joint and mobility issues. There's evidence of increased risk of cancer from having that weight. So there are dire downstream consequences of that type of unhealthy diet promoting these metabolic decompensations. Okay, next slide, please. So to summarize from an endocrine standpoint, where Blessings has a very helpful impact on children's health, number one, on the growth side, age-appropriate daily caloric intake from a well-balanced diet allows children to attain their maximum growth potential, to fit in genetically where they're supposed to and to not be left behind. On the metabolism side of things, a diet that is high in lean proteins, fruits and vegetables, healthy as opposed to unhealthy fats, high fiber whole grain starches as opposed to refined processed starches, And a diet that is simultaneously low in those saturated fats, salt, processed sugars, and starches, that significantly lowers the risk of developing metabolic diseases and obesity. And so the impact of something like blessings to allow children to have adequate caloric intake and do it in a healthy manner, hopefully guiding their taste buds, has very important impacts on their overall health. And I'd be happy to take some questions if there are any. Otherwise, we can move on.
No questions in the chat at this time.
Wow, that was amazing. Dr. Bordini, thank you. You forget one of the things that struck me was how our taste buds are set at a very early age, and that dogs you for the rest of your life. And so to do that at the young age, and hopefully I know we're providing young people with healthy alternatives. I think if that could get people to be be a little more thoughtful and just not crave some of those things. I think that's an amazing impact that I hadn't really considered. With all the good that comes out of blessings, that may be a long-term blessings benefit.
Most definitely.
Yeah. All right, thank you. So we are going to go to our next presenter. I want to introduce Sunny Morley. Sunny Morley is the principal at Diamond Lake School, and Sunny is at Diamond Lake Schools in Mundelein, Illinois. She's a proud first-year principal at Diamond Lake. With a deep passion for education and student success, she has dedicated her career to fostering, engaging, and supportive learning environments. A Lake County, Illinois native, Sunny discovered her love for working with children while serving as a summer camp counselor. This experience ignited a lifelong commitment to education, leading to a bachelor's degree in elementary education at Eastern Illinois and a master's degree in educational leadership from Aurora University in 2009. She's currently pursuing a doctorate in education at Concordia University, Chicago. With 18 years of experience in education, Sunny has served as a second grade teacher for 8 years, a fourth grade teacher for 4 years, an assistant principal for 6 years, and before stepping into a role as principal. Her leadership is driven by a commitment to student growth, teacher support, and community engagement. Welcome, Sunny.
Hi. I'm so sorry to cut you off, Sunny. Before you start, we did get one question for Dr. Bordini while Dan was reading your intro. So I did just want to pose that question, and it was, how pervasive are insulin sensitivity changes amongst malnourished minors?
It's a great question, and it's a complicated one, so I'll try to do it quickly. Undernourished, chronic undernourishment. That in and of itself, when you're in that state, is not going to cause insulin resistance. But depending on the subsequent intervention, hopefully you get into a better place, you can get what's called a refeeding syndrome type of problem, where, okay, you're rescued from undernourishment. But again, if those calories are very high, processed sugar, starch, or whatever, that body type will go into the insulin resistance mode rather quickly. And so if you're taking someone who's been chronically malnourished, all the more reason to be strategic in providing healthy options so that you don't unmask that metabolic decompensation.
Hopefully that answered the question. I didn't understand the question, so, but anyway, go ahead. I'm sorry. Thank you for answering that. Sunny, let's get back to you.
All right, so I wanted to share a little bit about how Blessings runs at our school. So Fridays are a big deal. I'm going to talk about it a lot because our attendance is up on Fridays for our 40 students that we feed on the weekends, which is huge because they're here to learn more often, and they're here because they know we care and support them. So on Fridays, teachers send students down with their backpacks. I will tell you that 40 kids come to our office. And you know what? I shouldn't say 40 kids because we put it in the youngest one's backpack. So there's about 25 kids that come down with their backpacks. And they come down with their backpacks and they have their backpacks on. They're always attached to their back, and they come to our office, and they come to our little office, and they turn around and we unzip their backpack and put it in. So they are like ready. They know what's coming. They are so excited. They are so happy. Some of them make sure that we have enough for their siblings. They're always asking, like, don't forget my sister. I got your sister. We got it right here. We have a little list of everything and how it goes. And their little faces just light up when they leave. Now, I will tell you, there's a couple of preschoolers who are 3 that come down. They don't come down with their backpacks. Their teachers come and get it for them. But our teachers care so much about our program that they make sure that kids get what they need for the weekend, which is so gratefully donated by Blessings that we are so lucky. Next slide. So some of our benefits that we've seen at our school, like I said, attendance is up. On Monday, our attendance is also up. We are a free and reduced school, so we do direct cert for everyone here. So everyone gets free lunch and free breakfast. But sometimes when you're tired and you can't get up in the morning because you're so hungry and your parents are struggling and getting to work, those Mondays are tougher. Our attendance has improved across the board. Our Monday morning bus referrals is at 0 this year, which is great. I can attribute that to some of the things. We're not angry, we're not frustrated, we're not starving, we're not, as some people call it, hangry on a Monday morning. Mondays are a lot less stressful. They're not racing in to get and pushing people down to get into the building. So these are some of the great things that we see every day. Students are taking pride in their families, and our families are grateful. And what we're finding is we just recently, after Christmas break, even opened up a little mini food pantry. With the starting of Blessings and being a part of that, it has helped our community open up to us and share when they need support and help. So our families sometimes are reaching out and saying, you know what, we need more and we can't do it right now, or this week's an emergency week, or this has opened up our community to become whole and our community to be compassionate, considerate, and there for one another. And they know that we are here to support them. Next slide. So some of our students who are they're not storing food at snacks. Okay, so we do give free breakfast and lunch. So what was happening was we would see kids taking one thing out of the breakfast, and instead of eating the whole nutritional meal that has been planned by like the dietitian and making sure that we have everything in there that they need, they would eat one piece of it and put the rest in their backpack. And then they would take that home to either feed themselves later or to feed siblings or those kinds of things. But since they know we're here now and that this is coming on the weekends, Fridays, everyone's eating all of their lunch because they're not stuffing it in their backpack for the weekend, which is really amazing. We have had a ton of student growth this year. So we are at our highest ever. 90% of our kids in our benchmark assessments have grown this year, which is great. That means that not only are they just getting fed, they're eating, learning, and they're being here and they're relevant to what's happening in our building, and their social skills have improved, and our behavior data shows improvement from past years. So past years, we've had different escalated behaviors. We don't have as many escalated behaviors. Some of our highest need trauma students are feeling safe, secure, and supported, and we're not seeing those escalated behaviors such as eloping from the classroom. We're not seeing as many physical aggressions in the classroom. So there's a lot of really great things that we've been seeing inside of our building and outside of our building. Next slide. Hold on. So our teachers, they're probably the most grateful for this, because I don't know if you know this, but the people who were trying to stuff kids' backpacks before Blessings came along was our teachers. And that was a stressor because, as we know, teachers aren't making $1 million a contract year. But our teachers care so much that they are so grateful that there's other people who feel as passionately about kids as they do, that this is a program that they are sure kids get to participate in. We have teachers come to us right now and say, do we have room for one more? Or so and so told me that her mom couldn't go grocery shopping because the card was empty. And I was like, so if that happens, I don't tell Dan, but I might sneak a snack in someone's bag. Because that is, you know what? Sometimes it just takes them to know that they can open up to you and we can be there for them. And it opens the door for them in other ways for us to help support them as a part of our community. So our teachers, they will, if we don't call down their students, they will call us and say, is it time for blessings? And we're always saying, it's always time for blessings. Send them down. It's the last day of the week. Or on a before we left for spring break, our teachers will call down and say, you know what, it's spring break. Do you think that we could send a little extra? And I'm like, oh, we already planned for that. Like, we are good because we aren't going to see them for a week. We know that we're going to send them with a little extra. We're going to give them that extra love. We're going to make sure they know that we care. And we're going to make sure they know that when they come back, they're going to be loved and we're going to be here and we're going to support them through all parts of their life. Next slide.
The end.
That's the end. Sorry. So we are just really grateful that Blessings is a part of our community and is a part of our village that it takes to raise our community of kids. And we're just really lucky. So thank you.
So thank you so much, Sunny. These are not kids from Sunny's school. These are kids from Sherman School, another one of our programs. I just love this photo. So I do want to say to everybody on this call, thank you. It really makes it possible. In Sunny's case, we have great friends at Aldridge Electric in Libertyville, and they are the ones making the Blessings program happen at Diamond Lake. So thank you to Aldridge, but all of you are making a difference in your own community. So Elizabeth, any questions or last thoughts?
No more questions, but I did just want to affirm Sunny and say that everything she said is 100% true. Dan and I had the opportunity to visit her school and to see those little sweethearts in their backpacks. It's just really touching. So hearing you talk about the difference that Blessings is making is just fills my heart. Thanks for sharing.
Thank you, Elizabeth. And on our final note, I'm going to make a sales pitch next Thursday. We have maybe my favorite event of the year, which is the Race to Feed Chicago. It is a team backpack event, kind of a bracket style. Think NCAA brackets, where teams of 8 compete against each other. First team to 100 bags wins and moves on. It is next Thursday, April 10th at 6 o'clock at the IO Theater, which is at 1501 North Kingsbury in Chicago. So if you have a team, bring them out. If you don't and you'd like to join us, just go to chicago.blessingsofbackpack.org and you can register and we'll put you on a team. I guarantee you it'll be one of the most fun nights. It includes dinner and a couple of drinks, and it's a really fun event sponsored by our associate board. So if there are no other questions, we are exactly at time. I want to thank Dr. Bordini. I want to thank Sunny Morland. Great presentations today, tremendous information. I think everybody listening got so much out of it. I certainly did. So on behalf of the 6,000 kids we're feeding here in Chicago every Friday and all the 90,000 kids across the country that Blessing feeds, I want to say thank you. And thank you to everybody for joining us today.